Hello, my name's Carol Sherriff, and today our conversations with Adam Kahane take a slightly different focus. So Adam's writing a new book that'll be published in early 2021. So today I'll be questioning him about his new thinking and his new book. So Adam, you've been incredibly generous in telling us about your ideas, particularly around collaboration. I know you're also working on a new book, and this has more, its focus is on facilitation, so I think broader than collaboration. So I'm really intrigued and glad we can have like a preview of that. But so can you tell us, first of all, how are you defining facilitation?
So I've been working as a facilitator pretty well all day, every day for 30 years. And so, yeah, I thought I would write a book about facilitation. It's not different from collaboration. In fact, I'm defining a facilitator as somebody who helps people collaborate. But I wanted to write specifically about that role, not about the general theme of collaboration or solving tough problems or collaborating with the enemy, but particularly about the role of a facilitator. And I'm defining a facilitator as anybody who helps people work together. And I'm saying that that role can be played by anybody, by a professional facilitator or not, by a manager, by a member of a group, by a friend, by a chairperson, in person, online, in a 2-hour process or a 2-year process, that this is all facilitation. And I guess I'm going further, and I'm saying that this role of facilitating, I think, is becoming more and more important because the room we have to deal with things simply by bossing people around, by managing them or leading them around, I think is getting smaller. And so this idea that different people or different stakeholders faced with a difficult or problematic situation need to collaborate to make progress, to me is a big theme in the world. And the people who can help that happen are facilitators. So I'm trying to redefine what we mean by facilitators, and to say that this has a much bigger contribution to make in the world than we might think.
That will be music to the ears of the International Association of Facilitators and its members. And I know this book is still, I think you're quite far with it, but it's still a work in progress. So can you introduce us to maybe one or two ideas, from the book that we'll read about?
Yeah. So the book is almost finished. It's the title is Facilitating Breakthrough, and it'll be out in the middle of 2021 from Barrett Kohler. So there's here's a few of the ideas. We've talked about some of them already, but the inspiration from the book came from a workshop I was in 3 years ago in Colombia, the country of Colombia, just after the signing of the peace accords that ended this 52-year brutal civil war. And I was facilitating a group of people who were trying to create a better way forward for their region in the southwest of the country, a very diverse group with former guerrillas and politicians and business leaders and community activists and indigenous people, academics. And there was one man in the group who I'd met before. He's a very remarkable man, very well known in Colombia. His name's Francisco Duru. He had just been appointed the week before as the president of the Truth Commission to look at everything that happened during the war. So I was pretty surprised that he'd shown up at this workshop we were running, and I asked him why he'd come, and he said, well, he was really trying to figure out how to get people to work together on difficult issues, and he thought he might learn something. So anyhow, the workshop went quite well, and at the end of the first day, Francisco comes running up to me, and he says, Adam, I see what you're doing. I said, well, what am I doing? He says, you're removing the obstacles to the expression of the mystery. So this was a very mysterious statement, and I talked to him about it for a long time, and I've thought about it for a long time. And this new book is all an unpacking of that one sentence. You're removing the obstacles to the expression of the mystery. So it's fun writing a book about one sentence somebody says to you in a workshop, but sometimes you hear something that's worth digging into. And so the first thing I got from that is I realized that, when facilitators talk about their work or talk about their frustrations or talk about what they're trying to figure out, the most common phrase they use is, how do I get people to ... And what I realized is, when I really think about my experience, most of the time, people want to work together, or they think they want to, or they think they need to work together. They just don't know how, or they're not confident they can. And so when they're able to, they're thrilled, they're overjoyed, they're over the moon about it. So the first thing I realized is that the basic task of the facilitator is not to get people to do anything, but to remove the obstacles that are in their way, or to help them remove the obstacles that are in their way. And that image of, I'm removing the obstacles, I'm taking the boulders that are blocking the stream out of the stream, and then the stream will flow. That you don't have to make a stream flow. You don't have to, not much use trying to push a stream, but if you remove the obstacles, then it'll flow by itself. So then the question comes, what are the obstacles? And I think the obstacles all arise from choosing either the vertical pole or the horizontal pole. That most people think they have to choose, and choosing is always an error. That if I choose the vertical way of facilitating, the bossy, directive way of facilitating, which many facilitators do, as you said, especially when they're nervous or feel challenged or insecure. But the downside of the bossy way of facilitating is that the process and the work becomes very rigid, and the participants, particularly the marginalized or junior members, become oppressed or dominated, and this is a huge obstacle. This prevents contribution and connection. The other extreme, which many facilitators often do, I think I've tended towards this other extreme, is this horizontal extreme, where you say, no, the most important thing is that everybody's voice gets heard and everybody's treated the same and nobody's forced to do anything. In other words, an anti-hierarchical way of facilitating. And this also presents obstacles, in particular the obstacle of things becoming fragmented and dispersed and nothing getting done. So that's why the main point of the book is, what the facilitator needs to do is not choose either the vertical approach or the horizontal approach, but to continuously move back and forth between these two. And for that, the crucial capacity is the capacity to pay attention, not get distracted, not get upset, not get overwhelmed, not get frightened, but to just stay with it. What's going on here? What's the move I need to make next? So you don't have to wait till next July. You've already got the summary, saved yourself $17.95. You got the whole thing now.
Thank you. That's very, very generous of you. I'm going to throw one more, if I may, because I know you've written in the past about power and love, and you know, that as, I guess, a polarity. And as I understand it, and from a previous conversation we had, you're beginning to say power, love, and equity, equality, I think, justice, I think. I'm not quite sure which words you're using. Are you able to tell us a little bit about that? And we will buy your book, I promise you.
Yeah, so this is what I think is a more fundamental version of what I said earlier about equitable contribution and connection. So that's sort of the facilitator speak version of it. I think there's a more fundamental and a bigger version of exactly the same idea, which is to talk about power, love, and justice. And yes, I've written previously about the polarity between power and love, that both of these are misunderstood words. Power is, in many people's mind, conflated with oppression, and love is conflated with sentimentality or romance. But I would argue, or I have argued, I wrote a book called Power and Love, that that actually the ability to, on the one hand, try to get something done in the world, try to grow, try to contribute, try to develop, try to realize yourself and your ambition and your organization's ambition. That's power. And at the same time, to try to connect and unite and make whole the love side. And there's a famous sentence in a speech of Martin Luther King Jr., one of his final speeches before he was assassinated, where he said, power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic.
Yeah.
This clash between immoral power and powerless morality is the challenge of our time. So I think that many facilitators are aware of the danger of power without love. People just trying to get things done without any sense of connection to others. And I think many people got into facilitation because of that. And yes, that's half the problem. But King is very clear that the other version, love without power is sentimental and anemic, is equally dangerous. And I would say more dangerous in a way because it's harder to see. Power without love is obvious. It's steamrolling over people or talking over them, or at the extreme limit, genocide. But love without power is where we say, well, thanks very much, but could we just get back to what the group wants to do here? Could we just focus on the whole? Could you just please be quiet about what matters to you? That's love suppressing power. And that's in a way more dangerous because it's insidious. Somebody once told me, after I published Power and Love, I gave a talk and somebody said to me, you know, I work in the healthcare field, in hospitals, and one of the worst things you can hear in such a meeting is when somebody says, could we please just focus on the patients? And usually his point was, this is a disingenuous comment. Nobody had forgotten about the patients, but people say, let's just focus on the patients as a way of having love smother power, as a way of saying, could the nurses please just pipe down here about their complaints? Or the administrators just put that to the side, could we focus on the patient? So I'm particularly concerned about love denying power being sentimental and anemic. Anyway, that's what I wrote about a lot, and that's what this book, Power and Love, is about. But what I've come to realize is that there's a third component of this, which I'm calling justice. And the way I think about that is justice is about the way things are set up, the way the system works, the structure of the system or the collaboration or the meeting, which gives some people or some groups privilege in how they can exercise their power and love, and other people are marginalized in how they can exercise their power and love. So I think to overlook justice, to overlook equity, is to prevent any progress in dealing with many, if not all, of the most important issues we have to deal with. So yes, I'm arguing that the fuller story of what a facilitator needs to do and a fuller story of what collaboration has the potential to contribute has to address not just power, not just love, but power, love, and justice, all three together. That's the only way to really affect a transformation in organizations or healthcare systems or larger societal issues. And that's, I think, the larger potential that facilitation has to contribute. Facilitation is not just making an orderly meeting. It's what is required to help people work together on the things that matter to them, bringing all of the power, all of the love, and all of the justice into the work. That's what I think the larger potential of facilitation is.
That's a fabulous vision and mission, isn't it? I can think that people listening in will be really, really interested in that. And almost it's like, yes, signing up to that vision of facilitation. Adam, that's a lovely point to end our discussions. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time, but even more so your thinking and explaining to us your ideas. Well, it's come to the end of our conversations. I'd like to say an especially big thank you to Adam for all his time and for sharing his thoughts so clearly. And I don't know about you, but he certainly stimulated my thinking. At times I thought, oh, I don't know whether I can do that. And at other times I thought, yes, that's what I needed to know. I hope your experience has been the same. Remember, if you want to take part in these conversations, you can do so by commenting on the Wilson Sherriff YouTube site, or please feel free to contact Adam and I on Twitter using @CarolSherriff and @Adam Kahane. Thank you so much for joining us.